Today's guest found herself $60,000 in debt and almost no business to show for it. She followed the path that everybody else in the mortgage business did to get more business, but it didn't work. So instead of chasing transactions, she decided to do something different and go back to building relationships. Today, I'm talking with Sarah Hubbard, founder of The Intentional Network and upcoming author of The Intentional Networker. After helping over 1,200 families with mortgages, Sarah got tired of being labeled just another salesperson and saw a huge gap. Spaces for beginners and spaces for big players, but nothing for entrepreneurs ready to grow, scale, and stop doing it alone. So she created it. She also built the MAPP framework, using AI to cut prep time in half so you can focus on what technology can't replace, showing up intentionally and building real trust. In this episode, we talk about why connection creates capital, how networking without being salesy, and even if you're an introvert, how to stop collecting business cards and start building real community. If you're tired of marketing that doesn't work, if you hate feeling fake or salesy, if you're afraid to go to that networking event, this episode is for you. Sarah breaks it down for us in a way that gets you excited about building true relationships. You're going to love this conversation, and I invite you to listen in. Welcome to Main Street Success Stories. I'm your host, Jennifer Koch, entrepreneur, business coach, and founder of Next Wave Business Coaching. My first business I opened 2 days before giving birth to my second daughter. But then I grew it for 20 years. I grew it from a local bakery into a national brand and eventually sold it for a profit. I know firsthand how tough the odds can be. Only 1 out of 2 small businesses make it to year 5. That's why I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs change those statistics through coaching, mentoring, and this podcast, where I share real stories of others, their success, their struggle, their mindset shifts, their fears, and lots of wins along the way. Because none of us are alone in this journey of entrepreneurship, and I want to make sure that you have the support you need. My goal is simple: to inspire you, motivate you, and show you there's a path to building a profitable business. So let's dive into the next episode of Main Street Success Stories. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the show today. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Jennifer, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Sarah, you have a very fun, interesting background. And of course, I always like to ask the question, how did you get started doing what you're doing? And tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so my journey of how I ended up here in the residential mortgage financing space is probably how most people come into the mortgage financing space. It was not anything that we anticipated we would do, but I was an athlete all the way through college and thought I was going to be a physical therapist. This is what I wanted to do. They helped me so much through my journey. And when I went to go apply for a doctorate program, my 3.9 GPA was not high enough at that point in time. And
Oh,
I was
my.
like, oh gosh, what am I supposed to do here? I came out to Colorado for my cousin's high school graduation, met my now owners of my company, and they were like, you should come work for our mortgage company. And I just laughed in their faces. I'm like, I don't know anything about mortgages. Are you people, what? They're like, you're here, you're on vacation, interview, let's just go for it. And so I did. They hired me pretty much on the spot. And I was at this point in life where I was like, do I go back to New Jersey where I'm from? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. And so I just jumped in both feet and learned everything that I could. I moved out to Colorado. I didn't know a whole lot of people except for my aunt and uncle that lived here, and just went all in on the mortgage business. And so I did the back end, what we call as loan processing, for 5 years. Then the ownership team came to me and said, hey, Sarah, we think you should do sales. And I was like, why? I'm making great money. Why do I want to serve that? They're like, you could make even more money. We think you'd just be really great at it. So I did. And that was a huge learning curve. I am the only female originator at my company. And so I watched all of these guys basically send direct mailers only to get leads in. It's the only thing I knew at that point in time. And so I went along with it. And 4 months in and $60,000 on credit cards later, I had no business to show for it, and I was drowning.
My gosh. Okay,
Emotionally and physically, it was terrible.
wow. Yeah, I am just like, first of all, physical therapy to mortgages. I'm just like, okay, is that right brain, left brain? I guess they're both still the left brain. I don't know, but what an incredible pivot. And you just, like most people, I've known people that have applied to PA school 3-4 times. I've known people that have applied to different kinds of things 3-4 times. They just keep going because they can't give themselves permission to say, you know what, maybe this isn't the way I'm supposed to go. And that's really was courageous of you. Or were you just kind of like, okay, whatever, I'll just try it?
No, it took courage for sure. Like
Yeah.
I left, New Jersey is where I was raised. Grew up on the beach. My entire family, and most of them are on the East Coast. Some of them are out here in Colorado now. My friends were all out there. And when I first brought it up to my family, they were like, "Oh, we could see it." And my friends were like, "We think you should go for it. Like, there's not a whole lot
Wow.
here." Like, they
Can
were
I
all
hang out
very
with your
supportive.
people?
Yeah, right?
Because I feel like most parents' reaction would be like, wait, what? You need to keep trying this physical therapy. You work so hard for it.
And I did. I had volunteered like 120 hours outside of working in the field full time. It was it was kind of it was a kick to the ego for sure, but it was also like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I'm in my mid 20s. I want to be able to be doing stuff for myself, and this may be the opportunity. And if it didn't work, I could always go back home. It's really the mentality that I was telling myself at that time. But yeah, it's different form. It's funny, I ask myself that all the time because I love helping people, and this mortgage financing side is a form of helping people in a very different way. But
Sure.
I bring a lot of what I like, compassion and caring, and more than just what's your name, what's your credit score, what's this, what's that. It's like, tell me more about why we want to do this. Let's make sure that this actually works. And I probably talk myself out of more business than most because sometimes it's just not the right fit. And I want to make sure that they're making the right decision.
Wow. Okay. So you jump in, you learn a lot, you are given this opportunity to grow your career, and you followed the typical path of, the blueprint of this is what we do to grow a mortgage business, which sounds like it was a ton of direct mail, just a lot of
It
ads.
was only direct mail only. Granted, picking areas that we would go in for certain area median income limits and appreciation values. So it's not just like a spray and pray and hope for the best. But a lot of the gentlemen that I work with had been doing this for 15 plus years. And so they had very established databases on top of this consistent flow of sending flyers, but it's all refinance based and it's all interest rates based. And so when people were calling me, they're like, "What's the rate?" And I'm like, "What's your name? Who are you?" I don't know what the rate is. The rate could be a lot of things if you would like it to be. And I just, on top of not functioning super well under debt, I was just doing what they told me to do. You got to spend money to make money. Well, I did that. And it was horrific for me as a person.
Absolutely. Right. And I think what's important to remember here and remind people is that as mortgage lenders, you guys are kind of like your own entrepreneur. You're just under an umbrella of a company. So it is up to you. There's nobody paying this for you. This is you pouring into your own business. So you find yourself on your own in a state that you don't know a lot of people, just grinding out this business, and you're $60,000 in debt. That was probably a key moment for you to kind of think, okay, what can I do differently?
Yeah, I had gone to a conference that everybody in my office had like poo pooed on. They were like, "They're all the same. They're just going to try to sell you something." And I'm like, well, I got to do something different. And so I went to this conference alone, and they do a lot of selling of coaching. There was definitely some empowerment things of predictions and different things like that. But I remember going up to a very seasoned loan officer who was selling a coaching program, and I just said to her, kind of explained a little bit of what I just shared with you guys, and I was like, what is the key to success here? And she's like, it's really simple. Do what you say you're going to do. And I was like, what?
That's it.
No,
How
no
much you
way.
charging for that
Yeah.
advice?
I
Yeah.
was like, no. And so I came home after that conference, and I had a lot of time, but not a huge budget. And so I was like, I'm going to lean into what I like, which is people. And I'm going to try this networking thing. Because while I was there, I had talked to a lot of other mortgage professionals, and they were like, "What do you mean you don't have referral partners? What do you mean you don't have a network? We've never even heard of this. This is wild. I can't believe this isn't part of your thing." So I had no idea. And I just kind of went in, and I was met with a ton of resistance when I first started in networking. And joined my local chamber of commerce here. It was like $450 for the year, which was right on point to what I needed for budget wise. I had a lot of my time. And as soon as I introduced myself and said I do residential mortgage financing, they automatically would put you in a bucket of you're selfish, you're just like every other lender, you're not special or unique. You're already in this bucket with real estate agents and this, and there's hundreds of you out here. You're really, really selfish, and you're not here about to learn about anybody else. And it was like, oh, and they told me I looked like I was 20. I'm 41 today. But I mean, so that automatically made me inexperienced, even though at the time I had been doing loans for 6 years. So it was just this weird, like another like My gosh, I didn't think it would be this hard to like get to know people. And I did a lot of watching and I did a lot of like pseudo mentorship with people that I saw were getting business from their efforts, or it looked like they were getting business from their efforts. So I would take them to coffee, take them to breakfast, pick their brains. How do you say this? How do you do this? And now we're almost 15 years into my mortgage career, and 90% of my business comes from my network and referral partners. And yes, I do have some traditional referral partners in my mortgage space, like real estate agents, but I also have a ton of attorneys, CPAs, people that aren't like your typical go to that you would think. And it has been beautiful. And but for me, that's exactly how I wanted to grow my business. Once that started happening and taking life and fruition, I was like, I am way happier doing this.
There's a big kind of pivot back to this type of business to business, because we got away from it during probably COVID, I guess, pandemic, where we were
Hmm.
all stuck at home and we were all stuck doing Zooms and we just got used to staying in our yogas all day and not leaving our homes. And then we really leaned heavy into digital marketing and Google ads and Facebook ads. Well, 2025 was an interesting period for businesses because they started seeing those efforts not working anymore. And it's because of AI. Nobody trusts what they see anymore. It was so funny. Just the other night, my husband and I were talking about that, how he sees something that looks like a little bit of news on Facebook or Twitter or whatever he's on. And then he goes and Googles it because he doesn't know what to trust anymore to see if it's
And
real. And
yep.
half the time it doesn't show up on Google because it's fabricated in our social platforms. So I'm hearing more and more, especially as we start 26, when this airs, we're kind of through first quarter, that we have got to get back to the roots of relationships, people, having conversations, meeting for coffee, getting out of our pajamas and going actually and meeting people because that's the only thing anyone's going to trust.
And it's true. And I have realized through this networking journey that there's a lot of people, whether you identify extrovert, introvert, ambivert, whatever your personality style is. If you are in the sales, entrepreneur space, whatever it is, you have to bring the human back to what we do because we are in information overload. I can't tell you how many times I talk to a first time home buyer or even a seasoned somebody home buyer that's bought multiple homes and they're like, "Well, I read this thing on Instagram or on TikTok," and you're like, "Well, uh let me
Yeah.
let me tell you what this really means. This one little thing that this person decided to do excellent marketing on, and now everybody thinks it's applicable to them." It's hard. And a lot of people are like, AI is going to phase us out. I think it's a beautiful tool. I interweave it into the book that I just wrote as certain prompts to help you prepare to network better. So if you can use it in a variety of ways, but it is also bringing back that personalization, like you just said.
Right. It is a tool. Okay, so 90% of your business comes from referrals, and that was not by accident. That was being
Mm-mm.
intentional. And you talk about being the intentional networker. And you just mentioned, a lot of people who are service based entrepreneurs or solo entrepreneurs can be a little bit on the introverted side. And I think we've got this stereotype of the experience that you experienced where you walk into a room and everyone's just looking to swap business cards and it's just all about it's very transactional. And that was the old way of networking. I mean, I used to be a part of hard leads groups where you were the only one in your category represented in that group, and every week you had to show up with 5 leads. And what I found was I was just chasing really crappy leads because people were just bringing their plumber, their neighbor, anybody they could
Mm.
just to check the box. So take us through a little bit of how do we start to cultivate intentional networking, especially if the idea of walking in that room just help, we break out in hives thinking about it.
Yeah, I will first say that while a lot of introverts, it takes them a lot more effort to push their limits here. I interviewed quite a few introverted fellow friends and business owners that I know in the area for my book. And they actually are some of the best networkers because their active listening skills are imperative. They're not necessarily super comfortable about talking about themselves, but if you can go into a situation and give yourself a time limit of, I don't know, I'm going to be here for 45 minutes or an hour. That's a lot better of a chunk than thinking you have to be somewhere for 2 or 3, a little bit more palatable to swallow. And you can go in and have curiosity questions that make somebody talk about themselves first. It takes that pressure off of the introvert entirely. And they are great listeners and a lot of times know a fair amount of people and are willing to open up their network to help solve a problem for that other person. The downside that I find with introverts is because it is a little bit more of a hurdle for them to be interactive in that conversation, or the pattern I saw a lot of, and I didn't dig into this scientifically, was at some point in time, somebody told an introvert that they were terrible at talking, that they had to be perfect somewhere in their school, college, whatever. And that has somehow stuck in their brain, and they need to think that they have to be like, they can't say, hold on, I don't have an answer for that, or you must maintain eye contact. There has been some sort of event that has stuck with an introvert that has made them feel like they are not good at this. And I want to encourage everybody to say, you can be good at this, but you also need to do it within your limits of what you feel comfortable with as a person. I could go work a room in 2 hours and leave and be ready for drinks and dinner like it's going out of style, no problem. The other person, again, time limit. The safe place is my car, and I get to go home after this and I get to go recharge. I also encourage a lot of my introverts, don't schedule a whole lot on the day that you know you have an event, a conference, a networking event. But let that day be a little bit lighter so that you can show up a little bit better on the introverted side as I go off on this tangent on introverts. But in regards to like the 90%, it has taken time. I will tell you that this didn't happen in 6 months. The magic happened for me at about year two, 2.5 of consistent efforts, of me being curious about people, me trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, me getting a lot of crappy leads before I finally started getting some good ones. But a lot of that also came with the evolution of me as a business owner as well. I learned a lot that will go into my framework of how to actually talk about what I wanted and not just make it sound like everybody else. I needed to figure out how to say what I do, attract what I want, and not be afraid to show up as yourself. I think that there's a lot of people out there today that think they need to be a certain way or they should be a certain way as a business owner. And I completely push back on that. And I'm like, the same person that would be attracted to me is not going to be attracted to you, Jennifer. Maybe. I mean, I think we have very similar personalities, but that's the magic of it, though. You want that
Right.
to shine through. You want to attract the people you want, because if you kept attracting the people that are on the opposite side and just drain you, you're going to burn out faster than you know what to do within your business. There's a ton of people out there that want to work with people that are just like themselves and that they trust. And you don't have to be anybody else but yourself.
That's such good advice. And, I think also for an introvert, sometimes when we go into these type of events, they feel salesy. So we put that pressure on ourselves that we have to be these salesy experts. But you said earlier, they often are better because of curiosity questions. Give me a few examples of a curiosity question you could ask somebody at a networking event if you're feeling a little uncomfortable and just want to, be an active listener.
Great job. Great question. Also, at the end, I do have some AI prompts to help you guys work through some of these questions as well. But
Awesome.
I I'm a little sensitive to make sure I don't ask somebody and assume that they have a family or anything like that, because I have a fertility journey. So I'm a little sensitive to that. And there's a lot of people that are like, well, why aren't you married yet? Why don't you have kids yet? And I'm like, whoa. So I always ask about, tell me if we're like, on the beginning part of the week, how was your weekend? And let them just tell you about what they did that weekend. I took my kid to the park. I read a book all weekend, whatever it is. And then we'll jump a little bit into the business side. And I'll say, this will air, end of Q1. What exciting things do you have planned for this year in your
Hmm.
business? And let them share it. And sometimes they have it figured out, sometimes they don't. But you'll get to the point of like what is actually exciting them on their business, or maybe some pain points that they're struggling with. And a question I always just say, tell me more about that. Like if that is gets people to keep continuing, or that's super interesting. I'd love to learn more about that. They will continue to talk because people love to talk about themselves, but you need to just get them to share a little bit about. And if we're halfway through the year and it's not appropriate to ask them what you're excited about in 2026, I ask about people that I know a little bit better. How's it going goal wise? Are you hitting your goals? Are we pivoting a little bit? I'm not afraid to tell you that I pivoted the last 3 years in the mortgage business because I shot super high, wasn't there, so I had to pivot down. Just anything that you can learn about them. You'll be surprised that most entrepreneurs don't have a lot of hobbies. When I ask
Oh.
people about, what do you do for fun? I've run this exercise in a lot of networking groups that I run. And I ask, tell without introducing yourself, and you can't say what you do professionally and you can only say your first name, tell me something else that you do. And there's people that look at me like, what do you mean? What do I do? I'm I'm a personal injury attorney. And I'm like, anything else. Like, do you like to
Yeah.
cook? Do you enjoy food? About beverages, books, anything. It can't, and a lot of people just become so hyper focused on the business aspect of it, which is a really important thing. But we are also people outside of this. So if you
Right.
can find ways to get them to talk a little personal, a little professional about what did you do this weekend? How is everything flowing this quarter for you? Are you hitting your goals? Is there something exciting that you are about to embark in? You and I are both wanting to speak more this year, right? So that's super exciting. Tell me more. Who do you want to speak for? I have this connection to this event planner over here or this association that could really use help on networking or whatever it is, that we're talking about. That all just opens up a conversation to be a little bit less salesy and a little bit more about you professionally and personally.
That's really creative, and I really like that. And how do you handle well, what do you do? Do you coach on having the elevator pitch, the quick I help with get results?
I want people to have their elevator pitch as part of my framework. It's the first P, it's called precise messaging. I want you to have that very dialed in. I think the best disruptors is a little humor and a little something that's a little like, I don't want to say off color, but like something that like you wouldn't expect to hear. Like I'll sometimes answer that question. I hustle mortgages for people. People are like, what? And I'm like, I do residential mortgage financing, but it feels like a lot of hustle all the time. Right.
Right.
And it just that's my personality though. I'm a little sarcastic and a little humorous, so I don't want you to try to do something that doesn't feel right. Do I think you should just go for your 30-second if somebody asks you what you do? No. But do you need to have it kind of dialed in and to the point that's a little bit of a disruptor? Absolutely.
Okay, disruptor. I like that. So tell us about your framework. You mentioned you have it's called the MAPP framework,
Mhm.
and it's to help people kind of find their intentional networking, correct?
Intentional networking and actually get ROI from their efforts. It's the
Uh,
thing I hear most about where I know I should be doing this or I have been doing this and I haven't seen anything come from it, right? You mentioned leads groups. I have been a part of them, run them, done all of the variety of different networking. And I think there is for certain business times and different cycles of your business in the beginning, middle, seasoned, do those types of leads group work later on? Maybe not, because for me, the referral I give out has so much value in it. And I don't want to have to be forced to give a referral to somebody because I'm sitting in the same room with them week after week. I want to make sure that that person that's getting that referral is actually quality and will handle that person exactly like I would handle that person if they were to come to me for my service. So, not knocking them, they serve a real purpose in a lot of businesses. But the MAT framework is something that when I was talking about networking to people, I realized that there was steps that I was following. So I had been working with ChatGPT and Claude was like, "You do realize you have an acronym here." And I was like, "No, I didn't, but thank you so much." So
'Cause we all love a good acronym.
I'm like, "I'll take it." So MAP framework, it's the first is mindset and intention. A is authenticity. I would also, if I could add curiosity here, I would, if it made sense in the framework. P is precise messaging. And the last P is where everybody really, really struggles, where the money is to be made, but it's purposeful follow through. So the M, mindset and intentions. If these are all words that we hear all the time on all over our socials, so they're not like these ultra creative words. But when you talk about mindset and intention, you need to be dialed into where you are as a professional that day at that season of life and be okay with it. Whether it's great, you were just late coming to this meeting, so you're coming in like your hair is on fire, whatever it is, you have to honor where your mindset is. And you also have to go in with a goal. There's so many people that just show up and they're like, well, I'm here, I made it. Even if it's to a coffee, I don't know what we're doing here, but we're here. You need to have a little preparation before you walk into the door. So the mindset is, where are you? What's going on? Take a few minutes in your car, take a beat just to make sure you can honor where that is. And the intention piece of it is a little twofold. So if you're going to a larger networking event or you're going to a conference or something that's going to have a lot of people, if there's a way for you to get your hot little hands on like a headshot lists or vendors or all of that, the prompt that I have in my book and that I will put in the show notes after this, you can throw that in and it'll tell you the top 15, 5 people that you should connect with,
Oh,
based
wow.
off of what you prompt AI of what you're looking for in your business. So this
Yeah.
brings a lot more intentionality and maybe will help some of those introverts not feel like I have to work an entire room to find the 2 or 3 gold nuggets that I'm looking for. And it's AI has presented to me people that I wouldn't have necessarily thought were a huge referral partner, but I've now met person that owns a virtual assistant company down in San Antonio, and I have sent him a ton of business because I'm around entrepreneurs all the time that are trying to do it alone, and we actually need help in order to work in our zone of genius. And AI told me I should talk to Mark. Mark actually found me at an event, and I wanted to talk with him. And now here we are. We've got a year later relationship
Hmm.
together of sending back and forth. So if you can go in with a little bit of an intention of who you want to talk to, because you know what you're wanting to get out of that event. Sometimes it's you need a bookkeeper, an IT person. Maybe it's you do need sales and a new top referral partner. Or sometimes all of that is looking really beautiful in your business and you just need to meet three new people in your community that you just are expanding out there. Those are all really good goals, but you are the one that has to establish that and then it also gives you a really great ask for when you are there talking with people. They want to help, they want to serve. And so if you can say, "Hey, I'm looking to connect with so and so," because you may not know them, that person can bring you over to them if they're in the room, or if not, they're not here today, but I'd be happy to make that email introduction for you, right? So it just gives you a little direction of when you're
Right.
in a room.
That's really smart and something that I don't hear many people talk about as far as setting a networking goal. Because I thought it was interesting when we first started talking about your framework, how the ROI. And I just heard that from a client yesterday. They joined a larger chamber in our area and felt like they didn't get the ROI out of it. But you question if they gave it enough time. Back to it takes time to cultivate these relationships and to have a give and take. It can't just be a take.
Well, and I always chambers are kind of like gym memberships. How much did you attend? How much
Right.
did you give? That is the basis of a chamber. I mean, my whole networking career started in a chamber of commerce, so I'm very intimately aware of how they operate. It may just also not have been the right fit. That community may not have been the right
Right.
fit for your business. So there's a lot of ways that to look at that, but got to have a mindset and intention. And if there's any way I'm a part of a networking group called Provisors. They send out a headshot list of everybody that's going to be at that meeting the night before. Not every networking group does that, but I can drop that headshot list in and tell me the top three people I should talk to based off of my goals of hitting this much in revenue or, I want to speak on more stages, whatever it is that you're looking to do, but you have to be
Right.
clear about it to get a little bit better direction.
That's awesome. Okay, so then the A is about authenticity and curiosity, if we could add
Yes.
curiosity to the A.
Yeah. So authenticity, I share this story in my book and I'll share this with you. I have a fertility journey and I had multiple losses. I have a 3-year-old son now, and he came into this world through IVF. But during that whole journey, I'm aware of my heart on my sleeve kind of chick. I know a lot of people are not, but I showed up through all of my networking efforts during that. And it wasn't like I was a Debbie Downer. I wasn't sitting there in the corner being like, this is the worst thing ever. Somebody would ask and I'd be like, it's a rough day today. It's not great. I'm feeling pretty crappy right now. We're here. I'm letting everybody else kind of lift me up a little bit. You have to share a little bit of yourself. If sharing your whole story is great and you're comfortable doing that, awesome. If sharing just this much about yourself in a true, authentic form aligns with you, I encourage you to please do that because that's what's going to attract your people. That's what's going to attract what you want. And, the word is getting thrown around all over the place with AI right now and authenticity, but just be yourself and don't be afraid to let it shine because all of us have magic in us. Introvert, extrovert, doesn't matter. But if nobody knows that it's there, nobody knows how to connect with you outside of a business level. And you have to make it a little personal. Just even if it's a smidge, for those of you that aren't seeing what I'm doing with my hands, a smidge personal, you have to be able to share that. And sometimes that takes a few times. I'm not saying you have to let it all fly on the first meet, but with my IVF story, I had a really complicated delivery pregnancy, the whole thing. I had meals at my door for 42 nights from my community because of just being honest about where I was personally and
Wow.
professionally in life.
Uh,
From other mortgage lenders, from real estate agents that weren't even my referral partners yet. So there's a lot of magic that can happen when you just let a little bit of who you are. And the curiosity piece, we talked about this a little bit before. You have to be curious about other people. We all have
right.
stories and journeys. There's a ton to be learned from business owners that are seasoned, or that are just starting on their journey and somewhere in between. And there's a lot of times they have tried something that didn't work for their business, but you're thinking about trying it for your business and you want to avoid all of the pitfalls so that you don't have to do it. But you can't do that if you're not curious about somebody else. And you can't
Love it.
learn that.
Okay, and then that takes us to precise messaging, which we kind of touched on, and that's a
Mhm.
little bit of this elevator pitch and being so crystal clear on who you serve and what you do.
Yep. I would just also just say that there's a prompt that is in the show notes here. Leave out the word anybody. You have to be very specific and you have to pretend you're talking to a 10-year-old. There was a point in time where I think people used really like jargon words that I would use in my industry because they thought it made them sound really credible. It just takes 10 times longer for somebody to understand what you do.
Yeah.
So that is not, I don't think that's a badge of honor in my personal opinion. It's just going to take me longer. And when I hear people stand up and say, I'm looking for anybody who wants to buy a house. That doesn't give me something tangible to grab onto and say, hey, you need an introduction to Jennifer, or hey, you need an introduction to so and so. And people are like, well, I can do a lot of things. Your business all has cycles. So talk about it with the cycles that you want to attract in your business at that point in time.
Yeah, and that's something I talk a lot with my clients. And there's a lot of fear around that because they feel like they're alienating people. And it feels counterintuitive if I don't say I can work for everybody. So my favorite line is don't be everybody's cup of tea, be someone's shot of whiskey because that gets
Yes.
remembered.
Yep.
And then that takes us to our last P, which is purposeful.
Purposeful follow through. So
Oh, I love it. Yes.
this is where everybody drops the ball and doesn't
Yeah.
see ROI in their networking efforts. You can't meet somebody once, have a great conversation, add them to your automated email list that goes out once a month, once a quarter, whatever it may be, and then expect business to come from that. It's never going to happen. There might be like one luck that like pops out where it just happened to line up just beautifully. You have to continue to pour into the people that you want into your network. If they can fuel your business, and you want them as a referral partner and you match their energy, you're going to reach out to them a little bit more often, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. And a reach out is a phone call, a text. Hey, I heard this podcast. You should listen to this. I read this book and thought of you. Hey, I saw on social media you had a softball tournament with your daughter. How was it? You have to add a little bit of that personalization, but just like you would follow up with prospects in your actual business of closing business, this has to be treated the same exact way. Whether you're reaching out every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I mark my clients or my referral partners A, B, C's, or nothing. A's are they're really great humans. They align with me. I can get business from them very quickly. I need to be in touch with them often. B's are you're great. Our businesses sort of sometimes have some overlap, but not often. I'm going to probably be touching base with you personally every quarter. And then C's are you're lovely. Our businesses are like not aligned whatsoever, but now you're probably going to get something personalized from me every 6 months. And there's a no designation, which means it's just a no for me. They can still be in your database, they can still get your automated stuff, but they're not going to get any more of you specialized. You're still going to see them in your community. So it's important to keep a good face on, that's just not going to be any more of what's specific to you. If you aren't nurturing the people that you are connecting with, you are going to get forgotten faster than you know what to do with. So I spend
Yeah.
an hour of my week, and yes, you are following a list. And I people have always said, how do I add value? I don't understand. Well, in the conversations where you're having with people, if they're readers, if they're listeners, I'm both, but I can't read as much with a 3-year-old anymore. So I do a ton of listening now. All of that stuff are really simple ways to start the conversation. Was thinking of you, would love to grab coffee, send me some dates at work, or let's go grab a drink. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. It can be very simple. But if you are not staying in touch with these people, the ROI will take far longer to come into fruition than anything else.
And I like your system. You need a system around it because you're going to forget them as well. And I like your ABC system and just trying to create some type of mindfulness or put it in your CRM system or whatever
Hmm.
to remind you to do that. So we talk a lot about when it comes to intentional networking that we are adding value to them. We're reaching out. We're sharing podcasts that we heard or books, and we make it all about them. Is it ever appropriate to send somebody an email and say, hey, I'm looking for 3 new first time home buyers that need a mortgage? Do you know anybody? Where do you fit that into your program?
That's a great question. And I was actually just asked something similar to this on another podcast that I was on. I think it's appropriate. And the reason why is because we are all here to close business. Why you even showed up to said networking event was to expand your network to get business. That is what we are here to do as professionals. Otherwise, it's considered social hour, which again is lovely, but that is not what we're here to do. So your crowd wants to know how they can help serve you. And if you can get very specific in the ask, and that's how you want to do it is through an email, by all means, go for it, baby. and make it just sound like yourself is the only thing I'm going to encourage you to do. I talk to a lot of real estate agents and they see a lot more buyers than I do on a very regular basis in regards to our worlds of what we do. But if they think that I'm fine on my pipeline or, I'm not looking for any new clients because I haven't been clear enough about that ask, there's no better way to do it than what you just said.
Awesome. Well, you have been a wealth of information, and I feel like every introvert out there listening is like, okay, I can do this. I can do this.
You
So
can, I
you
promise.
can do this. And it's more important than ever. I think, like we've talked about, now is the time to get relational and go back to doing business the good old fashioned way. So tell us about your book.
Yes. So the book is called The Intentional Networker. I also run a networking group here in Denver area and I started to add a Zoom aspect to it because I felt like there was a gap between when you're just starting in business to when you actually have traction and seasoning in your business that a lot of people start taking from you versus you putting yourself into rooms that challenge you and to continue to grow. You need to be able to continue to grow if you want to have, bigger ROI, whatever it is that your goals are. So the intentional networker came to fruition because I was talking to people, I have this framework, and it also simplifies down business card etiquette. And how do I say these? I'm a big person of tangibleness. Like think of it as your networking buddy is in your back pocket, is what this book is about. It's punchy, it's informative, it's exactly how I talk, it's real, and it's just tips and tricks that you can take with you to improve your marketing aspect of network, is really what my goal was with this. And there has to be intentionality right now. We can't be all the things for everybody, even though we really maybe want to be. You cannot do all of that. And this helps you get a little bit more dialed in with how to do that for where you are in that season of business. And the intentional network is just about it's industry agnostic. I have a huge abundant mindset. I think if we get like-minded people in the room that are 10 years into business, 15 years into business, and 5 years into business, there's a whole lot to be learned from all of us on all angles together. So I bring in speakers that add value to people that can implement things personally and professionally right away. There's an open networking component of it. We don't trap leads. We don't do any of that stuff, but we have to collaborate together in order to get to the next level in our businesses.
And I love how you're putting a lot of clarity for us around networking. So I will be sure to share all the links to your AI prompt that you're giving us, which I appreciate that so much, the book, and how to get a hold of Sarah so that you can learn more about being an intentional networker. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your journey and what you've learned along the way. And there's a good saying out there that when we make our mess our message, good things happen.
I love that. That's a great saying. But thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure.
My key takeaway from today's conversation was the fact that Sarah didn't change her results by doing more marketing. She changed them by building better relationships because connection really does create capital. And in my world, that's not just a nice phrase, it's a strategy. And it's pillar number 3 of the 9-pillar blueprint in the Earn More, Stress Less program. Your network is not a nice to have, it's a growth engine. It's a safety net, and it's often the fastest path to consistent revenue and profits. So when you network as intentional, you stop chasing cold leads, you get warmer referrals, and you spend less time convincing people that they need you. I hope today's episode was enlightening. I encourage you to use the prompts that she gives us. They're in the show notes below, and also to get her book, The Intentional Networker. It's time to start building authentic relationships. We're in a season now where people don't trust what they see online. So even you introverts, you can get out there and do some intentional networking. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with another small business owner. I know they could use some help in the networking space, and please leave a 5-star review. Until next time, keep building.